Me, me, me. Let's actually not forget to post the stream this time. Oh, I forgot to post the... Okay. No, that's it. There we go. Alright, let me water ready. Okay, so let's see. Are we ready to start? Yes, the ads are over. Yes, then let's get started, shall we? Hello everyone, how's everyone doing today? Welcome to the stream. Today we shall do commission work. Yes, yes indeed. I have a big commission work from Cutie Kitty. Cutie Kitty wanted to update their game to have casting spells. So I need to work on that. Also needs trees. I need to make 2 trees. So I am currently having a bit of... I'm not entirely sure, right? Because I'm doing a casting spell animation. At first I thought we weren't going to use props. But then using a cane felt like a good thing. And then I made this one where the casting using the cane, which is nice, it's nice. But then I kind of realized something that I made the character attack with this hand mostly. So if I make it the character just holding the staff with the other hand, it's gonna be weird. So I am gonna have to redo that one, the sprite a little bit for starters. So I do think, and it probably transitions better into this one where he's holding the staff with this hand, right? I think it works a little bit better. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. So basically, this is actually a really big commission because it doesn't seem like a whole lot. Like I am. Oh, actually, hold up. I do want to save the staff sprite here too. I'm gonna save it here. Empty frame. There we go. Because you never know. I might have to edit the sprite so it looks like they're holding the sprite better. So we have a few complications from the get-go. The first one is I don't really want to block the head entirely with the staff sprite because it ideally you don't want your character main face to be hidden by any mechanics. Ideally. It's like the character in the screen is what you relate the most to when you're playing the game. So unless it's like purposefully like a design thing, right? Where it's like Dark Souls and you got they got like the big helms and you're supposed to feel a little bit impersonal. You really want to highlight the face features on the designs, right? If a face feature is hidden, it should be intentional. Is basically what I'm saying. Oh, let's see here. Could do this. Okay, okay. It looks like a rod. It looks like a rod. It's crooked about as much as a magic rod usually is. Right. Okay, 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 okay. This stop it feeling good. Yeah, I think we're gonna go like this. Right. There you go. Perfect, perfect. Like this. This is probably better. I do want to shorten the stick here by 1 pixel. There we go. Honestly, we can probably keep it like this because it looks like he is like channeling with the staff in his hand. So that's kind of badass, actually. I do think that works. Yeah, that does work well. You don't have to change it much. You just have to give it like the impression that he is holding the staff a little bit more. So if possible, I would love to not have to, cut the sprite where he's holding, but I think it's unavoidable. I do think it's unavoidable. Let's see here. So I am gonna wait a little bit before I dive into the main topic. I watched an anime of all time. It was an anime of all time. It really was. And then I watched another anime of all time. That one I didn't watch the finish. I watch a lot of anime. I watch a lot of anime this week. A lot of anime this week. It's new. The new season is upon us, and I watched a lot of stuff. But I want to try to keep it focused on. Okay, this is perfect. This is perfect. On stuff that. But before I do that, hold up. Hold up. Okay. I do want to save this in full so I don't like lose the details. So I am doing backups here in case I do anything stupid. But here we go. I did watch there's some anime that I watched at the beginning of the last season that I kind of immediately, like completely, absolutely wrote off, right? And I did so with a little bit of jaded cynicism, but also because I have watched a bunch of anime of that kind. It was isekai anime, basically. It was isekai anime. And I do gotta remember that sometimes anime needs time to cook, you know? Sometimes they do need kind of time to cook before you can see them for what they truly are. I will admit, I did make some hasty judgments, and I did have a do have a bad habit of trying to psychoanalyze authors for their work. And honestly, I really shouldn't do that. Like maybe the person's like, you know what, this is pandering, but fuck it, I need a paycheck. Sometimes they're just trying to make a living. I shouldn't judge people for trying to make a living, trying to make something, even if that something sometimes can feel a little bit weird or problematic in general. But, anyways, this anime was really weird but kind of funny because the anime had some really interesting tonal whiplash, and honestly, it's hard not to make fun of it a little bit because the premise is pretty much about a guy who was seemingly thrown in what almost feels like the a I don't know. If someone did a Google research on what are all male fears and anxieties and just wrote that as the entire guy's backstory. It's basically a guy who gets cooked into another world. Kucksekai, if you will. And I talked about it in this on the stream before. And the anime is actually a comedy. The anime is actually a comedy. But I don't know why it has some interesting decisions when it comes to the tone of the story where it will shit will randomly get extremely unhinged in an uncomfortable sense, and then it goes back to being goofy. I don't know why it does that. It just does that. I think it's not a bug, it's a feature though. Because I don't know, it could be a little bit insensitive, but when it comes to fictional characters, sometimes when a fictional character has a tragic backstory, depending on how tragic the backstory is, it becomes extremely hard to take it seriously. Because, like, you know that there's an author there. You know that there's an author there. You know it's not like just the person having the worst of circumstances or the worst of luck. You know that an author is there and is trying to make you like the person, care about the person, care about what happens to them. So whenever an author just goes too hard, it becomes funny. Hey, Lunatic, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing good. Ah, how are you? Hope you had fun this weekend. I know I did. Thank you for the pet. Thank you, thank you. Hi. Hello. Hope you're doing good. I'm making I'm making sprite characters for Cutie Kitty. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Like I said, I had a pretty good weekend. I went to the zoo with Momochi. We watched we watched a lot of anime. We did our every big. We have a tradition. We sometimes include. We try to include chat in on Discord, but honestly, it just feels a little bit better when we do it by ourselves, where we just sample every single anime that comes out, regardless of it being terrible or not, right? And I just have so much fun with that. It is so much fun. So we did that this weekend, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed myself. Hope you're doing good too. I did. So the thing that I did tease this last stream, that I watched a series that I had previously discarded because I thought it wasn't going to be like any good whatsoever. And I found it surprisingly enjoyable. I found it way more enjoyable than I thought I would have. And I do want to talk about it to you and everyone else today. The series is called I'm an evil galactic overlord. I'm an evil overlord in a galactic empire. One day I'll be able to say the full name properly. But like honestly, don't bet too much on it because that name is so huge. It is such a huge name. It is such a huge name. I have trouble with huge names, you know. I really do. And these isekai visual novel names, they don't help. They don't help at all. But anyways. So, the story had a few hooks that I thought were interesting, and but I didn't. The reason why I dropped it was because I didn't believe in the author doing anything too interesting with them. Because I'll be real, I suffer a lot from isekai disillusion, where I don't know. The thing about isekai is sometimes the story is written in a way where there are stakes to the story, right? There are a lot of stakes to the story. They are properly set up sometimes, not always, but sometimes they're properly set up. But then when it comes to the execution, when it comes to the actual execution, it leaves something to be desired. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna mince words. It does leave something to be desired because the thing is, if you hype up a guy as being like really strong and dangerous and things were definitely going to head in a mean direction, now that this new character has appeared, everything will change. This Dark Lord is gonna be super scary, etc., etc. You know the kind of stuff. You know the kind of stuff. And then your protagonist just goes, "Oh, actually, I have 1,000 different skills that can counter exactly everything you're doing. So now I'm just gonna win. Thank you very much for the XP, good sir." Um, I don't like that. I don't like that very much. I really don't. And like, I know that theoretically it's never really a question, is the protagonist gonna win? Like, unless you're like watching like a tragedy anime, or like an epic saga anime where like a successor can somehow pick up the mantle where the original protagonist left off or something like that, right? uh you know that the main characters aren't exactly gonna die, you know. that they are gonna be okay in the end. You know all these things. You know all these things. You've seen stories before. You've seen stories before. You know how it goes. Nowadays on the internet, there's plenty of resources for you to learn at least the basics of how to write one yourself. So you know these things more than ever. TV Troops exists. And if you like don't know these things, never enter that site. It will change how you see media, and I'm not entirely sure if it will be for the best. But yeah, these things exist. These things exist. And it's no surprise. There is no surprise in seeing the protagonist win, right? It's expected to happen. However, uh, with enough investment, you care that the protagonist wins, right? With enough setup. And usually you kind of want to see the protagonist squirm. It feels like it's a bit of a aesthetic thing. It feels like a sadistic thing to say, that you kind of want the protagonist to squirm a little bit instead of just like being handed the good things. But it's true. It's true. Because if you're playing a game, usually you do want to feel like you did something there. You do want your bosses to be hard. You just don't want to be beaten by them, right? People want a reasonable challenge for a game. If a game is too easy, people will go away easily, will leave it behind. It's part of the things, right? It's never a question if they're gonna win. I find it much more interesting when stakes are lower and it's feasible for loss, since it's not a loss of life, it's like a loss of a side character or something. Yeah. That's also another thing. This is kind of also why it was really awesome when in Yu-Gi-Oh! The protagonist wasn't playing. Some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels are villains fighting each other. Because when villains are fighting each other, you actually don't know what's going to happen. Bakura challenges Pegasus to a card duel, you're like, okay, what? Who? You don't know who's gonna win anymore. If it's Yugi fighting either of them, you know exactly what's going to happen. Bakura versus Merrick, there wasn't a formula there. Either could win. It would rely entirely on their cunning. Who's the most cunning bastard is usually who wins in these. And that's why those are very treasured by the communities. But anyways, that the problem is, right? There's another thing that's like a very good recipe for like, and that is how is your character gonna win? Which is why there are a lot of people who advise you to like write your story, write your battles like you are writing a puzzle for a game, right? So, in order for the character to win, he needs to realize something about his opponent that will enable the victory. These are usually the most hyped ones, right? Where this is kind of why JoJo, a lot of people love JoJo and feel like JoJo is like pure hype. Because even though the protagonist has usually, but not always, more simpler kit than the enemy, it's usually about finding the workaround on how you're gonna win with what you can do. If sometimes protagonist power is punch really hard, making it hard for that punch to actually land can lead to some very interesting dramatic tension. Maybe the opponent has flying power, so the protagonist has to find a way to taunt the enemy to actually come down so he can punch him in the face. Maybe the opponent can create like a barrier and just punching hard isn't going to do, but there's some sort of limitation around that barrier. And the protagonist has to test different ways to find out how to break that barrier. That sort of stuff is what creates creates fun moments. So what is the problem with isekai usually? Isekai does raise these problems for the protagonist to solve. But because of there's like a power fantasy element of it that sabotages the narrative a little bit, which is hmm could work. I think it works better though if we throw the body forward. But anyways, so the protagonist, the problem with isekai, okay, usually is that whenever they try to set up a difficulty for the protagonist to overcome, the protagonist overcomes it way too damn easy, way too damn fast. And what has upset me with the isekai genre before is that sometimes some of these are legitimately interesting. Okay? Every so often, some of these scenarios have legitimately interesting application, they have legitimately interesting situations that would be very enjoyable to see a protagonist overcome. However, because of the power fantasy aspect, these come and go way too quickly and way too easily. So it's like, oh, this monster is the strongest monster that there ever was. Because of his amazing size, he can tear buildings in two, and he is almost completely invulnerable. Then the protagonist is like, oh, that's okay. I have the slay giant monster's feet, and now I can just kill him, no problem. And then he goes and kills it, no problem. There's usually a moment in these where there's also a lot of build-up hype. Where hype is built up, it's like, oh, this is gonna blow your mind. This fight, oh my god, it's gonna be so cool. It's gonna be so cool. I am thinking specifically about that time I reincarnated in another world as a slime, which was isekai that I enjoyed, but quickly realized it wasn't gonna offer me or the protagonist any challenging situations. It was just about the guy vibing about being a slime in another world and just getting all the power and all the putang and all the booty and all the harems, etc., etc. And even if there was someone who was like extremely powerful, they either failed in comparison to the main character regardless, or they would just absolutely fall in love with the protagonist and follow him without any hesitation. Even I gonna say this, so far at least, I haven't really watched the whole thing, so I can't really judge it too harshly, but most of Overlord feels this way. Like, there's definitely a lot of like build up for like things could go bad at any moment, but the thing is they never do. Like the author is good enough to know that how to create. He creates a lot of tension with like, oh, these beings are actually super powerful, and technically the Ainz is technically a human, so they could revolt against him at any time, but they never do. They never do. They worship the ground he walks on. It's kind of baseless, right? Because he actually isn't all that, except he is because he bought a bunch of cash items. And the cash items usually break the story all the time. It's like, oh, he could actually die this time, except he has a cash item that revives him. You get what I mean? There's a lot, but Overlord is still much higher. It has a lot of higher stakes. I haven't seen too much payoff. It does come to a point where the stakes and the payoff don't come from the protagonist, but comes from the antagonist and the side characters. Because sometimes you get to know certain side characters very well, and you know they're screwed because they're getting close to Ainz. So you kind of feel bad for them, and it kind of works in that sense that you get more tension out of rooting for the villain sometimes, or rooting for characters to not be completely disfigured by Ainz or the his NPCs shenanigans, right? There's something there. There's something there. But and that's also the thing. There is something with most. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's something with most isekai. There is something there with most isekai. That said, that said, they tend to underdeliver a lot, and I became a little bit too jaded with them because of that. But and and sometimes, honestly, sometimes there's some genuinely goofy experiences that I have denied myself from thinking like that, because my God, is I'm a evil overlord in intergalactic empire goofy. It is so goofy. It is such a goofy show. It is such a goofy show. It has a lot of tonal whiplash. It has a lot of tonal whiplash. And I'm gonna get to how exactly. Well, it starts at the beginning. It starts with the main character backstory that he gets cucked into another world in the most overly dramatic way possible. Basically, his wife is cheating on him with his boss, and his daughter is actually his boss's daughter. His boss treats him poorly at work, and his wife reconnected with his boss, who is the true girl's daughter, after a while. And so they're going on dates behind his back. And the boss is like, you know what? You're kind of in the way of my new life with this lady that I now really like. Didn't really like her when I impregnated her. I really like her now, apparently, for reasons. So, you know what I'm gonna do to you, my dear employee? I am gonna frame you for embezzlement while I embezzle myself. And then I'm gonna leave you to with enormous, huge debt, and you're gonna have to work your whole life to pay it off, which is very short. He dies of depression, pretty much. He dies of sadness and goes into another life. And while he is on his deathbed, he gets visited by a demon who calls himself the guide, but it's a demon. It literally feeds on negative emotions. Like, let's be real. That's a demon. That's a demon. It's a shady guy who kind of looks like an old Yu-Gi-Oh card called Witty Phantom. And it's a demon. There we go. This is saved. I think this is a good animation. That's the shooting animation. And now I can try to make it cast forward and backward. Right. So how do we do this? So first things first, we need the cane the cane forward. Yeah, so the way it starts overly dramatic, very overly dramatic. And I was already like, oh boy, what is this? Where are we going with here? Is this gonna? I was wondering if there was going to be like rampant misogyny in the show because of the way it starts. Because it definitely is literally like the wife is really sucky. So I got into the bad habit of assuming bad things about the person who wrote it because it is kind of complicated whenever you're like making characters like that feel very, very cartoonishly evil of a specific gender. If like, does the person have something against that gender? It really is just about letting the story write out and see the proportions. Because if every single female character is bad, then you know you have a pattern, you have an issue. If not, then it's just a character and move on. Let's move on, right? We can it doesn't get too tiring. It can get tiring with writers who go like that, right? That go too hard on these things. But that wasn't really the case. Most of the characters are kind of goofball. Of course, technically, the one of the most virtuous characters in the show is an AI girlfriend, which is like, okay, that's a road we can take, I guess. All right. It's really weird because it's basically a robot girl. She is really sweet, call it a Magi, but it's weird that they keep dropping AI. Usually, I feel like, unfortunately, because of the age of AI that is upon us, apparently, it's such a buzzword that remembering that robots have AI seem to be important for the plot or something. There was like a Terminator AI uprising situation going on in the story too, which is set up for like prejudice against AI in the Empire, which is another setup for stuff that happens later in the story. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I did think it is pretty funny that the protagonist is like AI girlfriend is very enthusiastic about his AI girlfriend. But regardless, she turns out to be literally his lifeline though, because the thing with that world he got reincarnated in is that he literally made a pact with a devil. So the thing about the devil, the journeyman there, is that he feeds on negative emotions. And he can literally feed on any negative emotion. He can feed on a person screwing up their ramming order, essentially. And yeah, no, the show really goes far to show this. It's part of why the show is so freaking goofy. There's a scene where there's a guy ordering like a frappuccino at Starbucks, and he orders it in the most obnoxious way while rapping, and still the girl is able to get it perfectly, which is commendable for her. I'm like, wow, she actually managed to. That's incredible. I probably wouldn't if I was working her at her job. I probably would hate the guts of the guy, but that wasn't the point of that one. And the dude was like super excited he was going to eat his special frappuccino with extra whatevs and whatnots. But then when he goes to drink it, all the toppings are stuck on the lid. And it's just the regular coffee under it. And he's like, no, my perfect frappuccino is ruined. And the demon feeds on that. The demon feeds on that. But the demon, which is very goofy. However, the demon does specify that that kind of negative emotion is like fast food to him, and he needs more nutritious stuff, which is what he is cultivating. He is cultivating the protagonist to be his most nutritious food because he wants an isekai protagonist to have their experience as an isekai protagonist completely spoiled, so their frustration and resentment will be able to feed the demon properly. So basically, you have a situation that felt very interesting to me, where it's like it's an isekai, but it seems the protagonist might get more than what they bargained for. However, if it's just causing the protagonist, the point of the story is just to cause the protagonist to suffer, that is, I mean, there's definitely a market for say some sort of sadistic indulgence of kinds, right? But that's not that compelling of a story, right? You need more. You need more than just that. So the thing that what they did that they planted to make the story interesting that really was what got me invested is that there was a right at the beginning there was a the protagonist shared something that he believed that when you died your pet is supposed to come for your soul, is your spiritual guide to the afterlife, which is cute. And he remembered he had a little doggy that he really liked. He was like, "Oh, doggy, you're the only one who wouldn't cuck me into another life. I loved you so much, doggy. I wonder if you're okay." You know, that kind of stuff. Very, very non subtle setup, but it's setup. It works. And he gets visited by the demon. The demon tricks him into signing a deal with him. And the demon is like really, really excited because he's gonna make his life in his new life hell. He just signed it up. I'm not entirely sure how it works. The demon just travels dimensions. So he picked the most fucked up dimension for him, or if he makes the dimensions. I think he just picks the dimensions because he has a lot of power in them, but he is not all powerful. Oh, this is good. This better. This better. You can see the stuff better. It still looks like it's forward. Has better perspective. Okay. And like the way the demon works, which was something that I didn't get in the first episode, because I was like, okay, the demon is supposed to be sabotaging him. Why is everything still going sort of alright? Most of these are minor nuisances at best. Because the protagonist is solving them also quickly, which is kind of like, which is kind of one of my grievances with isekai, because protagonist solves things way too quickly and easily, and then there was this one episode that made me realize one thing: the demon isn't very bright. So a lot of the things going right at the protagonist are kind of jokes. And the demon keeps making mistakes that I thought were actually reasonable. Like, for instance, the protagonist has an AI girlfriend that pretty much bails him out whenever he's in trouble or having difficulty understanding certain things from the world. That was gifted to him by his mother, who also on his 5th birthday, who also gifted him an extremely large debt. He was reincarnated into a noble family, but it's a ruined noble family. So the protagonist is pretty much is actually screwed. Is actually screwed. However, and the and it's also revealed that even though she gifts him the AI girlfriend who is extremely competent and really helpful, the main reason he is given one was because the demon suggested to the mother to gift him one, because in that world there is a huge prejudice against AI. I may have touched on it before. So the idea was to sabotage him by making sure he has no freaking his reputation is low, and it would be even lower. No one would listen to him because he carries around an AI girlfriend with him. So that was the demon's goal when he let that happen. What the demon didn't realize is that AI in that world is so advanced, it's literally people, and that he didn't know that the protagonist knew what the freak the laws, the Asimov's laws of robotics were. So he programs her with the laws of robotics, but strictly, specifically to him. So she becomes fiercely protective of him because of that. And also because they bond. Because technically, they are both outcasts. It is the world's very hostile toward AI. So it's a world that's hostile towards her. It's a world that's hostile towards him because he got tricked. So they bond as outcasts, and that is she's like his greatest ally, and she helps him out a bunch. But also the dog manages the dog that was supposed to grab the protagonist's souls actually enters the other world while the demon isn't looking. And that was the thing that I was like, okay, so this is more interesting. So the dog is gonna try to help our protagonist. Is the dog gonna try to help our protagonist escape the hell his life is going to become, or something else? It was something else. The dog actually keeps showing up as like little sparks of something. The protagonist takes notice. He sees like a weird light, and he instinctively goes after it. And that light is the doggo guiding him, and the doggo guides him to doing good things. Because the protagonist is under this idea that his life was shit because he was a good person, and that being a good person doesn't pay off and he should be evil. But his idea of evil is like cartoonishly, so he doesn't really know how to be evil in a practical sense. And in the end, he relates to people in bad situations too much to actually be able to oppress them. So the dog helps him, the robot girl helps him. He ends up making his bankrupt lands, bankrupt planet that he owns because of his family, to be one of the most well-developed civilizations. And yeah, like he's technically trying to live a corrupt life and stuff like that, but even the stuff that he tries to do that's corrupt doesn't work. Like he's like, haha, I'm gonna be evil. I am gonna ask for gold as a, I don't know, as bribery. That's the evil thing to do, right? Well, not in this world. Gold is extremely undervalued as a metal. People really like stuff like Orihaucon and other stuff like that. Gold is like a low tier. There isn't like really any real value attached to it. So he thinks he's asking bribes that would cost people and stuff like that. And he has a treasure hoard. But actually it's like, oh, it's like if you like, okay, I'll close the deal with you, but I really want that really cute marble that you have over there. Can you give it to me? And the other guy's like, yeah, sure. Doesn't even count as a bribe. No one really cares. No one gives a shit. And apparently, the empire he's part of is so corrupt that even when he tries to do bad, even when he tries to do bad stuff, to most people it's like, oh, that's all you're asking, really? You want to do something that's a win-win for both of us? You fool! So he can't even be evil like that. There's one entire episode that completely roasts him when he's trying to do something that would be like morally reprehensible. And he finds out that in their culture, it wouldn't be reprehensible at all, especially since he is part of nobility. Because nobility is corrupt as fuck in this world. So everything he tries to do that's evil ends up not being evil at all. Which I don't know if even is a social commentary or the author is just like, oh yeah, I was supposed to like give an evil undertone to some of his actions. Let me try and do it. And it's goofy as fuck. It is goofy as fuck. It was genuinely entertaining for me. I actually had a great time, particular with that episode where he's like, I'm gonna do something evil. I'm gonna have a harem, and then it's like, and then everyone's like, yeah, no, of course, you're nobility. It's completely normal to have a harem. Actually, I was worried you weren't trying to get one yet. And it's like, what? And he kind of gets flustered and kind of drops the harem thing completely because it wouldn't work like in the mangas. And then he kind of realizes he didn't really wanted one anyway. He wanted to create like some sort of hall of debauchery that had a pool made out of sake. And then the robot waifu immediately points out to him that if he puts enough wine or sake or whatever in an enclosed in a pool, the enclosed space would accumulate so much alcohol fume that the air would become extremely volatile and it would be an enormous fire hazard. Everything would just blow up. And he just stays grumpy for the rest of the day. It had some really, it had like some really genuinely goofy moments that I really enjoyed because of that. But then it does stuff where there are some bizarre tonal whiplash. There's this character who is this princess from another planet that she is gonna join the club of girls who really like this kid, right? Really like this kid and swear fealty to him. And her backstory could genuinely might need a trigger warning because her backstory is she's kidnapped by this extremely evil pirate person who is into body horror. Not really sexually, honestly. He just thinks it's really neat to see women cry as they're transformed into monstrosities slowly by his weird mad scientist guy that he just has on board for some reason. And her story is she gets captured, she gets tortured as one of this guy's toys. It's like a really sad and gut-wrenching story. But lo and behold, protagonist Kun shows up guided by the doggo. The doggo that makes sure protagonist Kun doesn't do dumb shit and do good stuff instead, right? And the doggo guides the protagonist to her. The protagonist immediately relates to her situation and it goes far as to say, Jesus Christ, I had a crappy life when I got completely abused by my boss and stuff like that. And I don't even come close to what she's been through. I'm gonna help her. And he just helps her. He's like, okay, I will pay all medical expenses to restoring her body, even though everyone around him is like, yo, that shit is gonna cost too much. Honestly, you if you just off her, right? She would just be happy. You don't really need to do all that for her. It's like, what the frick are you talking about? Of course I wanna help her restore her body to full. And he does. And she's okay. And he pays all her medical bills. He pays the medical bills of he pays all the medical bills of a complete stranger. I think even by like today's real day modern standards, that is like a really impressive feat of generosity, right? To just completely buckle up all the medical expenses of someone else. That is kind of amazing. And he just does it even though he has a lot of that. But because he administers his kingdom well enough, he dukedom? I think it's dukedom. Anyways, his dukedom well enough, he's actually able to afford it. He restores her and all her mates who are also captured to full health, and doesn't even ask anything in return. He's just like, okay, leave her there. She's taken care of. I don't care. And just goes on with his business. So she becomes fiercely loyal to him because of that display of generosity. She feels like if indebted to him, she's gonna help him out from now on. And that's all. That's okay. That's completely okay. It was definitely a choice that the protagonist did of his own accord. It didn't feel forced. It felt completely in flow with him. And then she ends up joining the group later. And but the protagonist, the extent of like the trauma that she went through, however, is just that she really hates pirates. So she becomes she has like the yandere look where she wants to kill all the pirates, and which is like supposed to be a little bit unhinged, but I don't even know, because technically look at what the pirates did to her, and they also made her watch her planet explode. I'm sure there are some nicer pirates out there who are probably gonna get absolutely fucked if they ever cross her, and it won't be divine retribution. But these ones kinda is. This one's kinda is. So whatever. It's very whatever in that sense. And there is one episode where the anime goes complete goofy because the protagonist is so busy taking care of administrative stuff that he doesn't really know his people very well. So he decides to go out and witness the culture of the planet he is in. And honestly, I like the creativity of the writer for this, because like the protagonist was like, "Oh, I wanna go see ladies at the beach. Maybe I'll find someone for the harem that I'm supposed to be building." And he goes there because he wanna see some cute swimsuits, and everyone is wearing full-bodied clothes for water because it protects. It's very protective against sun rays, and it looks nothing like swimsuits. It looks completely weird. I'm pretty sure there was a lady cosplaying as a Vaporeon in the middle, which was like, what? What the hell? And then he finds out that the main fashion accessory that everyone thinks is super cute is these nose balloons that kind of look like a color that looks like there's colorful snot coming out of your nose. And he was very disappointed in his people. He was very disappointed in his people. I think he mentions about outlawing the balloons, but like it's very inconsequential. It is very inconsequential. I don't know. It doesn't really show up anymore in the anime, but I think he was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make to change the culture to be a bit more Earth-like because this is too weird for me or something like that. But like at that moment, I was like, wow, okay, so this is the real tone of this anime, huh? Everything is it's everything is goofy. Everything is super goofy. I see now. I understand the vision now. And yeah, so basically, the way the anime goes is the protagonist is gonna the demon becomes horrified that the protagonist is doing well, so he starts to intervene indirectly to create worse situations. But whenever he intervenes indirectly, he ends up giving the protagonist more ammo to be successful. Like, for instance, he was like, okay, so I know this idiot wants to live as a villain, so I am gonna make sure that in his armada, there are only extremely serious soldiers who have rebelled against their superiors before because their superiors did, because of the bad things that their superiors did. So that's like a good trap. But little did he know, our protagonist sucks at being bad and does a bunch of stuff that makes him respected amongst the soldiers. So these guys become fiercely loyal to him and are willing to overlook the fact that he keeps an AI. The AI also proves herself in battle, and because they are very serious, they don't ignore it for their own biases. So the protagonist just keeps accidentally winning. The protagonist doesn't even know that the demon is a demon. And he is like, oh my god, thank you so much, guide. You are so cool. And the guide suffers from physical pain each time the protagonist is happy with him. So that is also part of the goof. That is also part of the goof. The protagonist is like, oh my god, you are so cool, you are so helpful, thank you so much. And the guy's like, stop feeling so grateful towards me, it literally hurts. But yeah, so that's how the anime goes. It ends on an open ending, but one that is like, I don't really need to watch anymore. I think we gotten enough out of this. Enough out of this joke. It was good while it lasted. We don't need it anymore. And I did end up liking it. It wasn't like Shakespeare or anything like that, but it was enough to show me that a lot of my presumptions about the anime were wrong from the beginning, and that the author was going in a different direction that the one I thought he was going to go. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. Like I said, by no means a masterpiece, but you really, really just sometimes need to give things a chance. You need to give things a chance. That's what I learned. That's what I learned. And sometimes it really does take more than 3 episodes to actually know what the hell is going on, unfortunately. So because of that, I've been watching another anime that I thought I should drop entirely to give it an extra go. We watched it on the Discord recently. It was the Appraiser anime. I kind of dropped that one because not because of the direction of the story or anything like that, but just because the protagonist had a power system that I thought was already amazing on its own, but then it just did the thing where it can absorb all powers. So what I don't like about that very much is that usually when that happens, when you have the ability to absorb your enemy's powers, you just end up with so many skills that, like, at one point, nothing that the story throws at the protagonist doesn't have an immediate answer to because he just learned too much stuff. And it just becomes tiring. It just becomes tiring. Yu-Gi-Oh suffered a little bit from that too, in the form of how Yugi would sometimes have completely random cards in his deck, and the cards would answer any situation like no problem. The so-called Aspos, you see the card in one episode, it solves one issue, and you never see it again. It was much more satisfying. When Yugi won and played with cards you knew he had. It was much more satisfying when he did a thing that you knew Dark Magician could do to win the duel, right? Maybe in an unexpected way. Then when he just pulled a completely random card that could destroy the opponent immediately, no problem. So yeah, that's what happens. How am I going to do the hmm hmm interesting. Okay, I think this is gonna be tricky. I think what I need to do is similar to what I did to the attack animation, where I lowered the character a little bit. From the side, it doesn't lean forward as much, but it should lean forward. So let me get here. So we did this here. This is gonna be a lot of work now, but the more work I do now, the less work I do later. Because once the poses have all been determined properly, I should be able to adjust the clotas. And like this. Then this pose here moves like this. Yeah, because here's the thing, right? I have, after I'm done with doing the base sprites on the naked model, and I have to do this for the female model as well, by the way. But at least if I finish the male model first, I will have a baseline for the female model, how I want to do the sprite. Uh, I am gonna have to adjust all the clothes to fit the new pose. Which is gonna take considerable effort. This is a big commission. It's why it's not cheap to do this kind of stuff for games. Hmm. Wait, did I delete the thing that I shouldn't have deleted? I think I deleted the thing that I shouldn't have deleted. Oh well. Oh well. I think it's fine. Okay, so I am gonna do like this. We can't see. Now we need to give some perspective to this. There is a shortcut we can use. But now, hold up. It's gonna be all about how well I can sell the position. Okay, this is working. And the anime of the appraiser guy was like, it's alright. It's very well drawn. It is very well drawn. No, it's no, it ain't Shakespeare, Chief. It ain't Shakespeare. It did one thing that drew my attention around episode 6, but then it immediately got boring again. Because the protagonist, there was this thing where the protagonist actually suffered pretty much out of the blue. It kind of sunk in that he was given all these fantastic powers, the ability to gain any skill possible, etc., etc. But technically, he was only born with a low level skill, and technically, he like it wasn't that he became strong because he found a magical way for his skill to be more effective or something like that. It was that he happened to find a literal waifu that granted him special powers. So he kind of got a little bit of imposter syndrome, which is a development I don't think I ever seen in these things ever. Well, I was kind of like, oh wait, did this just got interesting? Did this protagonist gotten a little bit more relatable because of this? And it lasted exactly one episode. It lasted exactly one episode. It was a very interesting episode, admittedly. The protagonist was facing against his old bully. Because in these things, usually if the anime has a character that's a support class, what will usually happen is the protagonist will be from a class that's underappreciated, usually for very dumb reasons. Like supports are in DPS or stuff like that, which I'll admit, as someone who played support in League of Legends, does happen, right? Support's usually an underappreciated role. That is true. And probably what prompted all these I'm a healer but I'm actually OP type of stories. Mostly because there is probably a generation of support players who are really frustrated with their gamer peers. So it's like, no, screw you and screw your toxic party. Because that's also another staple. There's usually like a toxic party. Everyone keeps talking down everyone talks down the support and stuff like that, but the support is actually really, really OP and useful to the party. And sometimes they go farming. Sometimes they like just quit everything and go live a life farming instead. There, I actually watched the one that was like that. That was pretty enjoyable. Hmm, is this good? Is this saying I'm throwing magic at you? This feels clunky. This feels really clunky. Let's see. The magic from the side. Okay, so one thing I can do instead of this, right? What if I just still hold it with one hand? Maybe? Yeah. No, 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 no. This is the thing. This is what we need. This is what we need. This is what we need. But yeah, so that was for the two anime that I didn't really watch enough last season. I don't think I'll keep watching the appraiser one. Maybe if I have some like downtime where I'm like, okay, I'm really bored, but I don't really want to do anything and there aren't any YouTube videos, maybe I'll watch that again. But for the most part, I think I am done with that series because I don't really see where it goes from here. Like immediately the because like while he was having his self-doubts and stuff like that, he gets attacked by his old bully that gotten super up by like demon eye powers. And he turns into this weird sort of Dragon Ball Z monster kinda. And it's like, oh my god, this is very different. And the protagonist is having trouble. Wow. But then it's all solved because he understands the power of believing his friends, and then he goes Super Ultra Saiyan. And because he goes Super Ultra Saiyan, he is now even more stronger than ever. And another enemy that's apparently a demon, because apparently there's a demon lord or something that's being revived. And because there's a demon lord that's being revived now, it's like the series finally has antagonists, basically. There were no antagonists before. And this is where things could get interesting, but they're not. They're not gonna get too interesting from what I've seen. Because in the very next episode, he fights against the first of these demons, and the demon gets immediately crushed. Like, just completely demolished because instead of showcasing the new threat, it was instead to showcase how OP the character is now. So I don't know. I don't know. I have I have issues. I have issues with that. I have issues with that. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe I will try to watch some more episodes, but it feels like it's gonna go in the main direction that I thought it was going to go, where it just becomes Poke Waifu hunt of sorts, where he is gathering all the spirits for no particular reason. They just really want to be together again as one big happy family that happens to really, really like our protagonist. Almost a little bit too much. And also, I think they killed off the lady that was with the abusive guy in the first season, but off screen. But the guy kind of gets forgiven by the protagonist. But she was killed, not killed by the protagonist. She was killed by the guy. I think his name was Zoid. It was very weird. It was very weird. And it wasn't. She kind of got sacrificed to showcase that Zoid was going bananas. And he is gonna serve time in jail for killing her and a bunch of other people. So yeah. Too bad only one of the bullies got a redemption arc. Hmm? I'm hearing scratching. Why am I hearing scratching? Ah, Lila was trying to get in. That makes sense now. Thank you for the pet, lunatic. Okay, so there we go. Do it like this. Okay, does it work? Let me see. It does. Interesting. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do with this one. I'm gonna do a motion blur here. Because that makes it I probably need a bigger blur. That makes the action more readable to the eyes. There we go. And that actually reminds me, I did want to do a motion blur here as well. So we do it like this. And like this. And like this. Now, I gotta say, from this new season, there are way too many anime that I'm hyped about. There are way too many anime that I'm hyped about. I'm actually scared because it's like, will I have time to watch them all? There are anime I thought I wouldn't be hyped about that I am, right? So one of the big new things that got me surprisingly hyped was an anime called the hero the The Stunned Hero and the Three Assassins, which is a comedy anime about a hero that is really powerful that wants to form a party. However, he has one main obstacle: crippling social anxiety. He can barely talk to anyone, especially to girls. He gets red beat, like extremely red beat. But he is able to find a party of three cute girls, all beautiful in different ways with different classes. And he wants to be a good party member, and he wants to help them. Hello, Medina. How are you doing? I am doing good. I am doing good. I've been problem solving a lot, but I think I found the solution for most of them. Hope you're doing good too. And I was just telling Lunatic and everyone else in chat about the animes that are this season and the ones I'm more excited about. There's this one. I think you're gonna like this one, Medina. It's called the Stunned Hero and the Three Assassins. Doing fine. That's good. That's good. Being yippy is alright. Being yippy is alright. God, there was so much fog when I woke up today. I was like, okay, I wish I could just go to bed. There we go. Now this is good. So it's either a largely comedy or something erotic. You got 2 out of 3 right, actually. So basically, like I said, this is the story of a hero that is really, really powerful. He dresses up like the hero from Dragon Quest III. Indeed. And his main thing is that he's really, really powerful, but he has difficulty forming parties because he is extremely shy. He has severe social anxiety issues. So he freezes up whenever he tries to get a party together. But somehow he finds himself in a party with 3 cute girls. And he promised that despite his social anxiety, he is gonna be able to keep them safe in their adventure. But here's the catch. One of the girls in his party is the daughter of the Demon Lord, who was offered freedom on the condition that she kills the most powerful hero there is in the world. The other is a hired assassin straight out of Black Lagoon, who was offered a huge sum of money to kill the strongest hero, that happens to be this guy. And the third member of the party is a dominatrix who drugs and enslaves men to use them as chair, who gets shown that this hero exists, and she absolutely wants to enslave him to add to her harem of pleasures. And all 3 of them are trying to kill him. But every time they try to kill them, something gets in the way. And they're actually not as bad people as you might think. So he can get stunned super easily because of the way because he has so much social anxiety, he faints if one of the girls barely touches him, right? So it's like, oh my god, there he is. He's completely vulnerable for the kill. All 3 pull their weapons at once, and then, hey, what do you think you're doing? I'm gonna kill him. No, I'm gonna kill him. No, I'm gonna kill him. And then they start fighting each other, and he's okay. It becomes like the situation where it's like a Mexican standoff, right? Then Ben Dagger snap because he's too strong. Yes, indeed. Also that. It's a Mexican standoff because they all want to kill him. But they slowly start to develop feelings towards him. Ooh, because he's very earnest and kind. Also. And it's adorable. I love it. I love it to tears. It's so funny. It is so funny. I can't wait for more episodes. Hold up, let me get it for you. I'm gonna get the poster. It's the stunned hero and the assassin princesses. This one is way too low quality. It is awesome, though. It is awesome. It is very goofy and it is very fun. It only one episode so far. I am thoroughly entertained by it. I am thoroughly entertained by it. Highly, highly recommend it. Okay, so now we need to butt up a little bit. The premise is interesting. The girls are cute, sound legit. It is pretty legit. It's a pretty legitly good anime, honestly. The other ones that caught my attention, one that caught my attention for completely unbiased reasons is this one anime about the ginormous Shadow Wolf King, right? That gets attacked by human adventurers one day. And he is like, you know what? You know what? What the frick are these vermin doing in my territory? They don't have the power to challenge me. What do they think they're doing? Right? And he finds out that they have these red weapons that are actually able to that were actually able to scratch his horn, and he was like, I don't like that. Those humans, they're onto something. I think I'm gonna have to wipe out their civilization. They're getting out of hand. They're not respecting their boundaries of where they're supposed to live. What the heck, man? What the heck? I was alright with letting them being alive, but they're starting to hurt my people. So he goes and he destroys the kingdom that attacked him. And then he asks the king what the hell they were doing there. And if the king doesn't give him a satisfying answer, he threatens to kill all the other races as well. The other human. Because, like, he calls everyone humans, but there are orcs, there are elves, there are dwarves, you know? But he sees everyone as human. Because from his perspective, you know, doesn't really matter. You're humanoid, you're like a humanoid species, you're a human. Yes, it's a very interesting POV. But here's where things get really interesting, right? Is this a granddad Kiba? Kinda. And here's where things get really interesting. While he's walking through the rubble, he sees a person who asks him to come close and save a child. A baby child. And he is like, are you crazy? I came here to kill all of you. And the guy argues with him that the child didn't choose to be born in that country. The child has nothing to do with what offended him, and that the child was very important. And the wolf gets curious about this affirmation, and he is like, can you prove that? Can you even okay? Can you even prove this to me? If you can prove this to me, I'll spare the child. And the guy is like, I can't prove this to you. It's just a child yet, but I guarantee that if you raise this child, you will see how important this child is. And the Wolf King gets curious, and he decides to raise the child. So Ginormous Monster raises a tiny little baby elf and resurrects one of the knights that tried to kill him. It was because she was a night woman and he needed someone to breastfeed the baby. She can't do it, so she starts trying to explain to him what I don't know the name. You know, the woman that it's her job to provide milk, right? For babies. And he decides to take a humanoid form and infiltrate into human society in search of said babysitter with the help of the resurrected knight. Bad mother. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Here in Brazil, we call it ama do leite, which kind of translates to milk maiden, but that sounds kind. I know what that sounds like to everyone else. I know what that sounds like in English. Sounds like something different. Milk maiden. So yeah. So that's the story. This one. Hold up. Let me check. Summer anime. You know what? I think I'm gonna enter Crunchyroll. Probably easier. That way I can actually see. Just a sec. And Crunchyroll decides not to load. Crunchyroll, no time to be crunchy, please. Also, I just realized that this whole time we've been streaming, I forgot to play the music. Sorry about that. So sorry about that. Wow, there are even new ones. There's a Necronomicon one? Okay, we're gonna have to watch more stuff later. Goddamn. Goddamn. Oh yeah, this one is named Clavates. Our joke is that the name of the anime is Cleavage. Clivates, it's the name. Time to face the music beeps. Hey Norex, welcome to the stream. But yeah, I think this one is like the one I have like the highest hope for.